Hello, welcome to This Is Everything, episode number 9, with my guest, Chris Fisher. Chris is probably better known to most people as just Fisher. He has been on the radio in the Tampa Bay area for as long as I've probably been actually listening to the radio. And since then, he started a new podcast, so I decided to get him on. He's become a friend of mine. It's a weird how life works. But yeah, so I grew up listening to this guy. I literally grew up listening to him from when I was 12, 13 years old in middle school. He had a morning show out here in the Tampa Bay area. Literally woke up to this guy's voice pretty much every morning. And then life being crazy, he ended up dating a friend of mine. And since then, we've become friends that go to Universal Studios together and share nachos at Margaritaville. So life's crazy. It's weird. I decided to have him on because of his background and his current podcast that he's doing. And his brother Kevin was in town, so he came along, and we all had a really good talk. So yeah, just a couple of housekeeping things. Please follow Fisher on Twitter. He's at Fisher the Man, and his podcast is called the FNK Podcast. 3 letters: letter F, letter N, letter K. The FNK Podcast. You can find them at fisherandcage.com. That's FisherandKage.com. And on Twitter is at the FNK Podcast and Facebook.com/FisherandCage. So please check them out. They're both really good dudes, past radio personalities from Tampa. They're doing their new podcast, and it's really good. I love it. Love those guys. They're great guys. And as far as the State Line side of things, please just keep your finger on the pulse of everything we have coming out. Doing some great stuff. So that's at state-lines.com. And you can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/statelines. Twitter is at tweetstatelines. Instagram is at statelines. And Tumblr is officialstatelines.tumblr.com. Please follow myself on Twitter. I'm at Daniel_Cura. And if you're enjoying this podcast, please check out our other ones. We have 4 total, including mine. We have the Mothership Podcast, which is the State Lines Podcast. We have another one called Social Media Offline with Jonas Arca. That one's awesome. I was a guest on that. And we have a newer one called Seminole Perspective that Jarrett hosts, and it's all about Florida State Seminole football. So in addition to those, we have some more in the works, and we're really excited to get them to you. So that being said, let's get into these new reviews for the podcast that you guys have left. We have 2 new ones this week. One is Potatoes Work Better, thank you, and one is Chell of the Sea, so thank you too. So if you want a shout out, please go ahead and leave a 5-star review on iTunes. Leave a 5-star review and leave a written portion of it. That way I can see your name, give you a shout out on an episode, and go from there. So yeah, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. Enjoy this episode number 9 with Chris Fisher.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special treat for you today. We have the one, the only.
Welcome to the State Lines Network.
Have a seat on the couch if you want. This.
Oh, all right. So you're using one of these bad boys, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
It's been working pretty well. Max, come here. Hey. He'll just sniff you down and then he'll be good. Oh man. Thanks for coming.
Cool.
So this is pretty chill and relaxed and hang out and chat about whatever.
Well, thanks for having me and my brother.
Yeah. So Fisher and Kevin, I don't know if you guys want to introduce yourselves on mic. So
Fisher and Fisher.
Fisher and Fisher. Yeah. You want to call Chris or Fisher?
Yeah. Kevin is. I'm the oldest of 4 boys, and Kevin technically is the youngest of the 4 boys, but he's a twin.
Okay.
10 years younger than me. And,
so I think legally I am considered younger, but scientifically I'm older.
Technically he was supposed to come out first, but his hand was in the birth canal, so they had to push him back in and cut my mom open or something like that.
They said I had the Superman pose, so if they induced labor, it would snack my neck. But I felt air, so I consider myself to be older than my
All right.
There you go.
Oh, you get that first breath in before they shoved you back in?
breath. I just
You remember it?
You saw the light.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you could come out. I was actually listening, trying to catch up. There's so many freaking podcasts to listen to. I listened to the past 2 from this week, and then I went back a little bit to the archives, but I'm loving it, dude. It's so good.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
It's coming along.
Yeah, man. So I guess we can kind of quickly, I don't want to go, and I always seem to kind of do a synopsis of how I met people, and I know it can probably be annoying. But you used to be on the radio, and I don't know if we ever really talked about how you and I, our relationship, how we kind of like cross paths.
Yeah, I was on the radio here in Tampa for 15 years. You know, I think I first started in '98. So and then you and I crossed paths. Was it through Creative Loafing and concerts, or was it through my girlfriend Lauren?
Probably a little bit of both. Probably mostly Lauren, because I knew Lauren and my older sister. I think my older sister was kind of closer to her in age, or is closer to her in age. But they went to high school together. I knew Lauren from school and
stuff.
That's
right. She was your substitute teacher or something, wasn't she? Something like that?
She did something. Yeah, she graduated a couple years older than me.
Yeah.
Years before me. And then like came back and started doing stuff around the school. So she was an authority figure while I was like in like 10th grade or something.
Well, tell me about this microphone, because I listened to your last podcast you did about Tall Heart and their breakup.
Oh,
and I was curious, you sounded much better than your guest. Was he back here on the couch like this, chilling?
Well, that one was a little bit different. That's the first one I did away from here.
Okay.
So, still figuring it out. I think it also depends. I think he was also just kind of a quieter person in general.
So these are one of the mics, we were looking at, coming from radio, we're using RA27s.
Yeah.
For radio people, it's, you know exactly what those are, and they're a long tube mic that you'll see in kick drums as well. And it's something that we love in radio because you get right up on top of them, and it can take a beating.
Yeah.
But this in the podcast realm, because so many people are getting together with their friends or with people they know they have chemistry with, they want to sit around and talk. Instead of buying 5 microphones, they're doing stuff like this and just setting it right in the middle.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. It's been a learning curve. I know I have the note there that says don't touch table, because the first couple is it's nothing bad,
Bumping.
but like first couple, like my friend Brent was like, I think my second guest, and he was like tapping on the table and stuff, and it really picks up like, so it has its faults.
So
too.
none of this.
Yeah, that'll be good for the headphones. But yeah, I mean, it's been great. It has a bunch of settings. So like, this is the first time I've used this setting because we have multiple people. Usually it's just back and forth. But yeah, it's been good.
All right, so like I said, I listened to your first podcast yesterday. Not your first one. I guess it was your 8th one.
Yeah,
something like that. And then I really like the album art, of your podcast. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And so tell me the purpose, because the show's called Everything.
This is everything.
This is everything. And so what are you doing as a podcaster? As a guy that has this technology available to him now, he doesn't have to worry about getting a job at a radio station to say something. When you were thinking about a podcast, what was it in your head going, I have something to say and this is what it is?
First answer, the name was mostly just because I couldn't think of anything great. And I knew I kind of want to talk about whatever and anything, and didn't want like a super structured type thing. Like definitely not like interviews. There's enough like interview style kind of stuff out there. So more just chit chat stuff. So I figured it's kind of a quote unquote internet term, I guess. So it's good. My marketing brain kind of went to there too. I could use that term and it'll pop up in different marketing stuff. But no, yeah, it's just been. I've been just wanting to talk with people and do something creative where, this is going to sound bad, but where I can kind of steer it where it goes and see how it goes, and then kind of steer it back if it's going somewhere different, or try new things. And it's been pretty fun. And it's on the State Lines, we call it the network. We have I think we have four different podcasts, including mine. And then,
so are you in this with somebody? Is it just you? Are you in a business, a company with somebody else?
Well, the website is, state-lines.com. Everybody here knows that. But it's my friend Jarrett started it maybe like 3 years ago.
So this is basically a network for podcasters?
Kind of. It's more of like an all kind of contributing site as far as whether you want to write articles. It covers like just pop culture, entertainment, sports. People write, like we had an original fiction piece up the other day. There's been a lot of sports coverage with NFL stuff kicking off now. And so it's a little bit of both. And we rebranded within the past couple months to kind of focus a little bit more on the podcasts, and kind of get them that way. We're still doing a lot of like writing.
So what's your ultimate goal then? Do you have one?
My ultimate goal was just to talk with interesting people, and then if it goes beyond that, that's cool. We're
right on.
We're gaining some following, but it's been. I've joked a couple times. If people other than my wife and my mom are listening, I'm happy. So it's been fun. And the crazy part that I can just have you sit on my couch and come over and we can talk, and then people can listen to it.
Yeah, you should have come down to. I'm out at fucking St. Pete Beach. I should have had you come down my way.
Right. Yeah.
Sit on the beach and do this.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's definitely interesting, and it's definitely it's a fun thing to learn, especially when there's no rules to learn about it. You know what I mean? It's the Wild West essentially, and kind of just you learn what works for you. And
that's what we were. When we started the F&K back last March.
Yeah. And
Jesse Cage and I started talking last December about this. One of the ways that I described it to him and to Special Ed, who's also on our show, and Johnny Griffin, our brand manager, is in a similar way. But instead of the Wild West, I said the podcasting world is kind of like California in 1848 or 1849 when they're first hearing rumblings that there's gold out there in them hills.
Yeah, right.
And and out back east, everybody's like, what? And starts heading out there. And for those people that have been going out west and back, out to California and back for, say, a decade prior, well, they all had advantages. And the parallel that I'm drawing there is that us being in radio, we have advantages going into the podcasting realm that, somebody else who's just going, holy shit, like you, the equipment's there, we can buy the equipment and just go.
Yeah.
You have gold. You'll find your gold as well if you're lucky.
Yeah, I mean, if we start getting honestly sponsors and that kind of thing were the last thing on my mind when we started. We just because the website fizzled out for a couple of years because it was really structured at first, and I think we've probably talked about it on this podcast. But so essentially, for example, I would write an article every Friday. Or every week. It'll be published every Friday. Somebody else will get every Monday. You know what I mean? And it was a weekly schedule, and it was just a hobby, and people got burned out, understandably, and plus just being creative on that kind of schedule will burn you out. So then it kind of fizzled out. The site's been live. We still get, for about a year or two, we kept getting hits and stuff, and then Jarrett, who started it with one of the other guys, Adam, texted me, he was like, hey man, I really want to get creative again. How do you want to do a podcast? And they had the State Lines podcast for a while, and again, that fizzled out, so we just kind of rebooted and kind of did a little bit more of an easy flowing whenever you want to post something. I've been sticking to my own schedule for my podcast every week. I just bumped it to every other week. Yours is going to be the first one that's been bi-weekly, just to it's been a little bit hectic behind the scenes getting guests, and then if a guest can't make it for whatever reason, scrambling to find somebody else to meet that.
One of the things that we've learned along the way is consistency is huge.
Yeah.
So whatever you decide it's going to be, whether it's every week or bi-weekly or whatever, once you figure that out, stick with it, and it helps. It helps out a lot.
Yeah, and that's why I think I started it weekly with the intention of having, if people are searching for it, they have eight episodes they can find now and listen to, and then now every other week, it gives me time to kind of get home from work. Like you said, we're doing this at 7 o'clock at night after my 9-to-5 job, so doing all this after work, it got kind of hectic every week, and then editing on weekends and all that kind of stuff. So,
and are you having fun though?
It's great.
Right,
yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot of work. I've said that, but it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, is this the water for your guests
Absolutely,
over here?
Yeah.
All right, I get the Batman cup. Kevin, you got
anything special there for you?
Get the mason jar. Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been good. I know you and I were at the Kevin Smith show. Was it last month?
Yeah, Kevin Smith was in town at the Tampa Improv. That was really cool.
Yeah, and he went on that podcast tangent where that was honestly the first time I was like, oh, maybe I can get a couple dollars from this in the future.
Well, that was really cool. Is how much he talked about podcasting and saying if you don't have a podcast, get one. Just do it.
Just do it for whatever.
It's you grab yourself a microphone. This thing is probably I don't know how much was this? $100.
A couple hundred. Yeah,
couple hundred. Oh shit. But you don't have to get. You can get a $99 microphone, a decent microphone for $99.
Yeah.
And all he has set up here is basically just plugged right into his MacBook Pro, and you can do the same thing with your PC or whatever it is you have. And what are you paying per month to have your? Are you going through Podbean or which service?
We're using Shout Engine.
Shout Engine is to upload your stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Jarrett would probably know better how much we're paying for it.
Right.
But it's definitely on Podbean would probably be more. I hate to disparage, but more reliable because Shout Engine is in still in beta. So
Okay.
sometimes we have a little bit of trouble on the back end. Like the site will just we just got to come back 5 minutes later and refresh the site and that kind of stuff. But overall, I mean, it's been good.
And going to what you were saying about making some money off of this eventually, one of the things I've seemed to be picking up on here in the first 6 months of doing this is that's the last thing you focus on.
Yeah,
it's the
content's
last
king, man.
content first.
Yeah.
Community second, if you want, because they'll put it in the 3 C's. They try to always do stuff like that. But content first, community second, then commerce. Mm-hmm. So make sure your content's right.
Yeah.
Do it for the right reasons, and
Absolutely.
everything will fall into place.
Yeah, and then your community starts to grow, and then once you know who that community is and what that community is and how passionate they are about you and why they're passionate about what you're doing, then you can monetize it. Then you can go to other people and go, hey, listen, if I've got X amount of people that are this passionate, I want to come record my show somewhere, and I guarantee you that we can put an extra 30 people in your bar or an extra 300 people in your bar. Or
Right,
whatever
exactly. Yeah, it's been fun, and especially being on a network. We're saying network, but just like our website with multiple different podcasts. Like it's been fun to work with each other as well. Even just like I know you community. Like obviously you're not a part of whatever we're doing. We're still a part of the same like local community that are doing the same thing. But even like I was a guest on a different one on the State Lines Network. I'm going to be a guest again on one that my friend Chelsea is starting, and she lives out in California. She's going to be on our network, so we're going to do like a remote kind of thing, and it's just fun. It's just cool, and everything. Like we have one specifically about social media that's hosted by a guy who is not really on social media, and they just talk about like how.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it talks about like he has like an outside perspective of
We have a great great podcast about physics, and it's hosted by a fucking moron who
Bernie the hot dog stand.
who doesn't know anything about science or math.
And it's been pretty cool as a guy who's been like pretty much in that for like ever since he was a teenager. Hearing somebody who's not, and he dabbles, but like it's more of like the
his perspective.
His perspective of it, and he has like guests, and it's more just like the overall social aspect of it outside of like the computer and like the effects of it. It's pretty cool.
Well, what I love about podcasting is it really does allow for everybody to have a voice now. Mm-hmm. Not everybody, because if you do it, technically it's an art because you're expressing yourself.
Sure.
And I'm not saying it's good art. I'm saying it's art. But we live in a time now where everybody get a microphone, everybody has a computer, and you can upload your own shit.
The internet's ruthless, so.
But it is, but that's the thing is people are gonna. Like you, Daniel, you're venturing into this realm, and you'll come across the point. If you keep going and get bigger and bigger, then next thing you know, you're going to get an email or you're going to get that post that just rips you to fucking shreds and makes you feel like a piece of shit. And you're like, "What the hell is going on here?" But if you can get over those things along the way and realize that they're going to happen, and you cannot pay any attention to them whatsoever, and just move on and keep doing what you're doing.
It's been mostly good. I told my wife Noelle the other day, like the first time, like I think I just got my first review from somebody I don't directly know or a mutual friend of somebody. And I was like, when that I told her a couple weeks, I'm like, when that happens, that'll be pretty cool. And I got one like the other day. I'm like, all right, that's neat.
Awesome.
I mean, I have a lot of mutual friends that are sharing stuff, and it's definitely going. You can track on the map like who's listening, like where people are listening, and I mean, I don't know anybody in Mexico, but somebody, or Australia, but we've had like blips on the map, which is pretty cool.
That is cool.
But
when we're pulling up our analytics too, and you see that you got 4 people listening in some part of Russia, and you got 22 people over here in whatever part of the fucking world. But then that's the thing too, is that the different, being in the radio. If I were here on the radio in Tampa, I've got access to 2 million people in the entire metro to try to tap into.
Yeah.
But what you're doing right now, what we're doing right now, you have access to 1 billion people, and soon as, and getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it's been a good uptick. I'm not really like I said, I didn't go into it with any other motive other than just to talk with people I think are cool, and then like when bands come through town, maybe snack some of them and sit down and do that kind of stuff. But like, yeah, it's been an interesting learning curve. But it's been really fun, and like
Kevin Smith was saying. If you don't have a podcast, get one.
Yeah.
Think first of all, there's a lot of people that can just sit there and talk, and just keep going. They don't need anybody in the room.
Yeah.
and I'm not talking about myself. For a lot of people, they have good chemistry with like grab a friend, that one friend or the bartender, that person that you have good chemistry, good rapport, and sit down and just start shooting the shit. But there's outside of people like that, and then people like us who were once in radio who are trying to figure out how to monetize this and making a living off it. Like my brother Kevin, who is he works for commercial design services and basically installs or. You tell him, what do you do? He lays out.
I do commercial interiors.
There you go. Commercial.
Okay. They go in and I have to find the customer. I got to go and show them cubicle options, conference room tables.
Okay, gotcha.
Do the whole interior design. They buy the furniture, give them options. We represent 500 different manufacturers, and then got to monitor the installation. And
I think
project,
for people like Kevin. Podcasting works, and it's a way for him to connect with clients if he wanted to. He starts a weekly podcast where he just picks a subject on how to design this kind of thing. He talks for 10 minutes on a particular subject and what to think about when you're putting together a home office versus a commercial office and this kind of stuff. And next thing you know, it's different. You don't have a lot of people think that either you have to have a very interesting guest, a guest with a name, in order to get. But it's not true. It's niche programming now on the internet. And you go out there and you're the expert on something, and they'll come to you. You can sit there and talk about fucking bees. You can talk about stuffing bean bags and shit like that. And next thing you know, you got 100,000 people listening to your shit every week.
Right,
and you're like, who are these people listening to me talk about stuffing bean bags?
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like maybe you can probably speak to this more. Obviously, being on the radio, have been on the radio side, but from as just a listener to both, listener to podcasts and having done podcasts, it's very. I found when I listen, it's a very specific thing. Like you're choosing to go to either your app or whatever. You're choosing to download that thing or subscribe to that thing. You're choosing to download that episode, and you're choosing to listen to that episode, which is sometimes a 30-minute commitment, an hour commitment. You know what I mean? It can be whatever.
Yeah, if you're when it comes to radio, you're punching through radio stations, or you hit scan until something comes on that you like.
Yeah.
Where, like, you're right. When it comes to podcasting, people come to you, and they are downloading you specifically. And even if it is an hour and you don't have a full hour, just press pause.
Yeah, exactly.
Just press pause and you come back to it later on in the day. So.
Yeah, and that's actually something you and I were talking about after that Kevin Smith show, like, that kind of spurred, like, I want you to come on the show or whatever, just because there's no competition. It's all friendly. If somebody's listening to this episode, it's not going to stop them from listening to an episode of your show when it finishes. You know what I mean?
I just came back from a conference in Dallas called Podcast Movement, and one of the things they were talking about a specific topic, and they called it cooperation. Again, if we're at a radio station, whoever's on the other radio station, they're not my friends. We're duking it out.
Yeah.
But with this, it's very different. It's almost like your competition or our competition is not each other, but other mediums, will be it radio, television, other digital stuff. But
honestly, the hardest time I've had with this podcast was thinking of a name for it that wasn't already taken. You know what I mean? Like, that was the only competition, was finding something that stood out that people will find when they search for it. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny that your show's called This Is Everything.
Yeah. Because
the concept that I was working, I'm pulling out my phone, the concept that I was first really thinking about last year before Jesse and Cage and I hooked up, this would have been a little over a year ago, was a show called Theory of Everything, or Everything Theory, I can't remember, but I want to read for you, the description of it here in a second. Do 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 do.
Yeah, it's I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. It's weird, but in a good way. Not weird. It's different. It's definitely.
I think everybody's fed up with the old style of turning on the radio and listening to the garbage that I was putting in 600 miles a week, and I still do. Mm-hmm. And I don't listen to any radio.
Yeah.
Any AM, FM, I can't get into it.
Interesting. Yeah.
I focus on topics I'm interested in. I'll drive by something and see something and could even Google it.
What podcasts do you download? The Thinking Atheist.
Joe Rogan. Radio Lab. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
So here's my, this was August 14th of last year. Everything Theory. Format, a combination of a traditional talk morning show style radio and late night TV talk show, i.e. Jimmy Fallon, where we talk about everything.
Yeah.
Imagine Jimmy Fallon and the Roots, except the Roots is one person. And this is because of the time I was thinking about doing this with a guy by the name of Chris McCarty. And he's got dreadlocks and whatnot. So has a lot of shit to say and sits at the table. Anyway, our guests will be interesting people from visiting the market, especially those who have found their way on this society's fringe. Because I want to be, society's fringe, because I don't give a shit about mainstream people anymore. Because in order to be mainstream, you have to fake this average, you have to fake this middle, to fake this mainstream, and I don't give a fuck anymore. I don't. Also, those who have something interesting to say about where we came from, who we are, and what else is out there. This show is about everything and how everything is connected. However, instead of it being hosted by a breathy New Age sounding personality or that lone voice in the overnight, it will be hosted by two charismatic personalities who they themselves have unique views on pop culture, social and political issues, and the world you think you live in. That's right, the world you think you live in. In the end, it's philosophy and spirituality, pop culture and social issues, exciting modern science and technology breakthroughs, all brought together in a way that at the end of every show there's a catharsis and general feeling that everything is going to be okay. This is Everything Theory.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree, and it's just. I'm just gonna cut that and put that to the intro of my.
Go ahead, man.
But,
there you go. Yeah, go ahead and cut that, and that's gonna be your new intro.
But no, yeah, I totally agree, and I was actually gonna touch on what you said about, just being fake anymore. The thing with podcasts too is you just chill here. If you feel like you're just sitting in a room with people talking about whatever it is they're talking about, and it's not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's literally what we're doing. But in my living room. But there's no.
Which is a very nice living room.
Yeah, nice place.
Oh, thank you. But there's no caricatures. There's no.
Or furniture.
Yeah, I mean, again, newlyweds. All of our furniture is where we're
where's your
sitting.
wife? Where's your wife?
She went out to a trivia night with her sister.
Ah.
So
it's just us and Max?
Yep.
How you doing, Max?
Ignoring you. Yeah, but it's just it feels a lot realer than some stuff where
It's genuine.
and even if you're I've had times when I was planning to record with somebody and I mean just normal, maybe I had a great week, but it kind of came out in that episode, but it wasn't bad. It was just normal people being normal people.
Being authentic.
Yeah.
Everybody else is feeling it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's been fun. It's definitely an interesting thing
A lot
that's
easier to
happening.
relate to something that we're all going through versus Justin Bieber getting arrested for the 19th time.
Oh, did you hear about Justin Bieber? Oh, did you hear about pop culture? Oh, did you hear?
Yeah,
No, there's some real
Hi,
struggles going on.
Max. Hi, buddy.
he likes you now.
How are you? How are you?
Yeah, but so
So what else are we talking about?
Well, we just did the podcast hour, but no, it's been good. I've been really enjoying your stuff. Yeah, dude. Whatever you really want to.
Well, it's funny. Speaking of listening to podcasts, I don't listen to a lot of them. Mm-hmm. I'm just now trying to force myself to.
Yeah.
But it was the same way with radio. I didn't listen to a lot of radio when I was on the radio.
Yeah.
Except for I would really just bury myself in AM talk. Because that's all there was. I cannot stand listening to, morning shows and basically myself. I can't. What I was doing for a living, I can't listen because it's just all so surface content and superficial and it just slowly eats away at my soul.
Well, you don't feel like you're yourself.
But yeah. So I listened to yours the other day. I'm gonna start listening to some people. I'm very curious. A month ago when Creative Loafing came out, doing Best of the Bay, and they listened to all the podcasts, your podcast's on there, our podcast's on there, to see all the local podcasts and go, shit, man, I really need to.
There's a good list, yeah.
Yeah, I really need to start listening to some of these just to see what kind of stuff is coming out of the Bay Area.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and it's just it's the same thing. It's just crazy. Anybody can do it, even if you don't have a microphone. You can have your phone. The same, literally the same thing you listen to a podcast with. You can make one with.
The first podcast that I ever did, and it was the Fisher Experience a year ago. Yep. I did on my phone. I got equipment all set up, ready to go, and then the time to record, and was missing one wire, and it was like fuck me, and went, no, you know what? It's happening like this for a reason. Da 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 da. just hit record on your phone and talk and just go. And excuse me, honestly, that was that podcast was my favorite. Outside the one that had my grandmother on it right a week before she passed, was my favorite podcast I did because it was the most real out of all of them. I think the most authentic because it was started off with me going, you know what, I started off this day thinking it was going to be the biggest day, and I've got to make sure everything's perfect and knock everything out of the park, and everything has gone the exact opposite direction. Yeah, and just started right there. And
well, that's the thing too. Like I think people connect or react better. Maybe if they don't connect with it. But with podcasts, unless you set a parameter for yourself, my podcast doesn't have a time limit. You can address that. You can address that all your equipment is not what you're using to do your episode with, or what happened that day, and you can address it. And also the best, I don't say advice, because I heard this on a podcast before I even considered doing a podcast, but like, as a listener, I appreciate it, was like, just let the pauses happen. Like, if you're having a conversation, you don't need, like, if I'm assuming if you're on the radio, you need if you have more than a couple seconds of dead air,
you start to freak out.
Yeah,
like a half a second.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But like, if you're having a conversation, you can let whoever you're talking to take a second to think about what they want to say. And
as my radio career moved on, and our breaks had to get shorter and shorter and shorter. I would get faster and faster and faster because I still wanted to try to get in say at one point our breaks were 8 to 10 minutes long, and then next thing you know they had to be 4 minutes long. Well, I'm still trying to cram 8 to 10 minutes into fucking 4 minutes. So there towards the end of my radio career, I'm talking a million miles a fucking hour. Yeah. And when I switched over to talk radio for a minute, it was hard because what you just said is a truth, but it was really, really hard to just breathe, relax, and allow that second of dead air, that pause, to happen on the radio, without freaking out. Yeah. And then, like you said, it just sounds so much better because I can listen to those times where I'm trying to fill every second with a sound, and you can tell, and those times where it just sounds a lot more natural and allow the pauses.
It's realer. Like, even if you think, even just on a listener perspective, if you're reading a book, sometimes you'll stop after like a paragraph, be like, holy shit, I need to think about what I just read. Same thing, like if somebody, you know what I mean? Like, even if you need to pause the podcast, or if somebody, like if we're talking and I say something to you that hits you, if you take a break for a second, I mean, that's cool too. You know what I mean?
Who's your favorite podcast?
Oh, man.
Or if you had a one podcast to tell the world they need to go, this is the podcast they need to listen to, what is it?
The first one, two. The one that kind of got me into listening was the Nerdist podcast.
That's Chris
Hardwick.
Yeah.
And then, but part of his network, the one that I would point people to actually first, that I kind of connect with more, is Pete Holmes' podcast, You Made It Weird, which this can kind of be.
It's called what?
You Made It Weird.
Yeah.
And it's great. Like, my podcast can probably be considered a ripoff of it, but it's same kind of thing. Just, I mean, obviously more like quote unquote celebrities, like comedians and guests along those lines, but they just kind of talk. His thing is, if you don't want to listen for as long as this podcast goes, just stop. Like, he doesn't. Sometimes they go on for like 2 hours, but they're good conversations, and like they talk from everything from just like dick jokes to God. And like in this course of a conversation, some of them get like really real. Or
that's usually the same conversation.
Yeah, same setup.
So
God walks into a bar, he's telling some dick jokes. So do you edit your podcast, or is it warts and all philosophy?
It's before I was editing more. The past couple weeks, it's been warts and all, but mostly always warts and all. The only thing I really edited were like for example, I told you like the microphone will pick up some bangs or stuff. So I'll listen through and make sure like nothing just like jars my eardrums while I'm listening to it, and just kind of splice it out. If it doesn't take away from somebody talking, or something in the background maybe. But for the most part, it's just the straight conversation.
Do you have any rules, for yourself or for your podcast?
No.
Things you'll never talk about, or?
No, we pretty much so far. My guest and I have kind of been all over the place, and I like it. Like, just go wherever. Like, what the interesting thing was, So I've had a couple. You mentioned the podcast you listened to with Boomer from Tall Heart Goodnight Neverland. I've had a couple other guys like in the music scene, which obviously those with their bands or whatever, they got some traction. But like for example, the one I did with my old roommate Caesar, we talked a lot about like him coming from like Venezuela when he was like 11 or 12, and that got like over 1,000 shares on Facebook and like
wow.
I mean, so like outside of our circle of friends and like people he knows, whoever's on the internet probably didn't know who it was, but it connected, and people he came to America from Venezuela with his family less than a month before 9/11 happened.
Oh,
so
wow.
so we talked about that, like how that was like being a quote unquote foreigner coming to America and how that kind of affected him, and apparently it hit with people, and it's just crazy. You don't know what it's going to be.
So you work at the Creative Loaf, and who's going to win all this money next week?
I have no idea, honestly.
You going to the party?
Yeah, I'll be there.
We'll be there.
Yeah.
Me and Jesse and our girls will be there.
Nice. Yeah, it'll be fun. Noel and I should be there, so I'll definitely be there. Depends if Noel's working, but
I like this. I like the setup where you just have a microphone in the middle of the room. I don't know how it's going to ultimately sound, but I think you should have alcohol involved too, or a hookah, or a vaporizer, or something.
I do have a hookah. I drank my last beer yesterday.
Oh, good for you.
So,
well, how long does this podcast last? I'll go to the store. If it's three more hours or so.
3 more hours. We can just make it the length of a 12-pack. But yeah, it's fun. Anything? So how have you been? Like other than just the podcasting stuff?
Good. We're trying to use this podcast to make a living. As a couple of ex-radio guys. And we move into an office here in the next couple of weeks in St. Petersburg and downtown.
Yeah, Lauren told me that. I was texting.
We're excited about that in the Crest building, and then try to add some other revenue streams outside of the podcast, like production and events possibly. And we're going to feel it as we go. See if we can carve out our own little niche here in paradise and live happily ever after.
Absolutely. It's cool, dude. Yeah, and this is the thing. It's a strange enough and big enough pie that I don't think it runs out of pieces.
No, I hate using the term infinite. No, I love using the term infinite. But it seems like there's an infinite amount of possibilities in the digital media realm. For now, anyway, until too many regular people are finding success with it, and those who already have power can't allow that to happen. So they'll try to find ways to regulate and and control all of this. But until then, we got to take advantage of it. And then when that starts to happen, then start a revolution and take those motherfuckers' heads off. Don't fuck with my freedom, motherfuckers.
You heard it here first. But yeah,
my violent threat? Don't control my internet.
Yeah. So not to like.
Did you get that pillow from Hogwarts?
Dude, I made that like in 6th
You
grade.
made it?
Yeah. I was moving out of my mom's house. Or, no, I was in my apartment.
When were you in the 6th grade? In 2006?
Listening to you on the radio. No, that was...
What year is the 6th grade for you?
Dude, backwards math.
So you're 11 years old.
Like,
what year were you born?
02. 89.
Okay. All right. So
02 sounds right.
That sounds right. So
I graduated.
You were in the 6th grade. You were in the 5th grade at 9/11. Jeez.
6th grade. No, that was it. Yeah, 6th grade. So 01.
Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah. Because I graduated in 2007, a couple years behind your lady. But yeah, that is the only.
Oh, that's right. I can't really make fun of your age. So my girlfriend graduated high school in the fucking 2000s as well.
Oh man. Yeah. So not to. I mean. I could talk about podcasting and stuff all day, but not to jar a change of subject, but part of the reason I was excited to have you on is because I feel like you and I can...
Is this a gotcha question?
It is. Here we go. I just feel like you and I can get weird into like talking about just weird life stuff that a lot of people don't like talking about.
Like, well, let's do it.
So,
what?
Whatever. Like, I heard you, was it this week's episode of your show where... Dude, and I loved it. You're talking about relationships, and such a fucking good analogy. You said being tethered to somebody like a bungee cord that you can you can jump off for into
I know,
infinity.
Okay, so you got to be careful with this. You got to be careful with this analogy.
And tethered's a bad word,
Right.
but like so it's a bungee cord that you can jump out and reach to infinity, but you can still come back to that base.
I found your partner in a relationship. I was making an analogy as like a foundation that you're tethered to. I'm like, well, they got to be careful because I want to make it sound like a ball and chain chaining kind of a thing, but more like a safety bungee for me, especially for a personality like me that I'm a risk taker and I'm the exact opposite of I don't know, somebody who doesn't take risks.
A responsible person.
Yeah. So that way you go out and try anything in the world and go to take some risks, take some chances that you couldn't take by yourself. Or it'd be much more difficult to take by yourself. That way, you can kind of go out there, and there's always that person that you're tethered to, or you know that no matter how far I get out there,
I can reel you back in.
Yeah, it's there. I can bounce back in, in an emergency or whatever.
Yeah, I heard you say that. I was like, damn, he hit it. And I don't know if it didn't sound preconceived. I was like, if he just hit that on the head so quickly.
I've used that analogy before. I've used that analogy before.
It was great. Yeah. So just even like last night, luckily enough, I have that with my wife Noelle, who you've met. But like even last night, we were talking about like our lease because we're renting this. So our lease on the house is up in.
Hell, your living room's bigger than my entire apartment.
Well, dude, only because we got lucky with it. Like we were gonna get like a 1-bedroom apartment, and then we got lucky with this place. But like our lease is.
Speaking of which, is the parking out there cool?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
Parked in front of your neighbors, I think.
Yeah, I know.
No, it's all good. But yeah, so like our lease is like ends in like January, February. So we just kind of chatted like, hey, do you want to like renew? We haven't even like, as you can see, we don't have a dining room table. We eat on the coffee table that we're talking on.
So how long have you guys been married now? Has it been a year?
No, we got married in February 28th.
6 months?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how's it going there?
Good, man. Good. As far as not being fully moved in, you haven't seen the other rooms where just all our shit is still from where we moved in.
No, I mean, I don't give a damn about you moving. How are things between you and your wife?
Great, dude. That's what I said. Like the house and like work life are pretty much I don't want to say downside, but like the home life has been really good. So she's really busy with because she works for the YMCA. She's the aquatics director, so she runs like the entire pool and anything to do with water. So during the summer, she's busy, sometimes working until like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock.
Trying to catch all the kids peeing in the pool.
Right.
Quit! I can see it in your face. I can tell by your position.
Yeah, so she's in charge of like all the lifeguards and all the courses and the classes. So like she's every summer. I mean, it's been like that since we've been dating forever. But it's cool to be able to still come home and like chill on the couch or even just go to bed and read.
So it's Creative Loafing your full-time gig?
Yeah. Yep. Been there like pushing 5 years now.
Do they have their own podcast?
No.
That's the thing. Like, I don't understand why Creative Loafing, TBT, St. Petersburg Times or whatever they call it, Tampa Bay Times, all of that doesn't have their own podcast. Even if it's a podcast specifically for, you just have somebody reading all the articles, from. Well,
yeah. I don't know.
It's such an easy technology.
It's easy,
and it's almost a waste not to have that.
Yeah, it's definitely a presence to have. Yeah, it's.
I just noticed somebody was telling me that because they're starting to do it in radio. And somebody was telling because one of the first, I keep telling my radio people, my radio friends, you're fucking stupid not to have an uncensored podcast. To do what you do and have every jock should have their own podcast that they're doing something every week and it's something different than what they do on the air, something that's uncensored or just taking a bunch of calls from fans or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
But Lauren was just telling me that, or somebody it was that I guess Drew and Seth over the Boners start doing that as a once a week uncensored.
Okay.
And I think you're going to start seeing a lot of that in radio, especially the personality driven radio, not necessarily your mixes and kisses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can see that definitely happening. I mean, obviously there already is, but I wonder if they'll try to wrangle that in though.
Well,
it won't steal listeners though, so that's the thing.
Well, that's what radio's they're eyeballing and nervous about and wondering about is, if you go down that path, you are going to double motherfuck yourself in somewhere along the lines. But I don't think so. I think it just adds. I just noticed somebody was telling me that, or somebody was telling my radio people, my radio friends, you're fucking stupid not to have an uncensored podcast. To do what you do and have every jock should have their own podcast that they're doing something every week and it's something different than what they do on the air, something that's uncensored or just taking a bunch of calls from fans or whatever the fuck it is. Especially in the time of radio where they've had to take so much personality out and make things so short because of the way they rate, with the way Arbitron works. This would allow that connection, I think, again, with the listeners, that right now they're getting through blogs and Twitter. But I think if you could do something like that once a week, I don't know, just...
Yeah, the blog thing is...
solidifies your fan base.
I see not even local radio stations, but I just see radio station blog articles shared all over the place, like all the time on Facebook from like radio stations I know the person who shared it from lives nowhere close to.
Oh, you mean mass or through radio stations that somebody wrote it in Austin, Texas, and it's...
Yeah, it's just like whatever, a blog post about
but you'll
whatever.
find it here.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like I said, even with like that episode I was telling you about Caesar, it's weird what hits and who shares what, but there's no way to track it. That's like, but people try to bottle it. Like, that's like the people try to say we want to make a viral video. It's like, you don't know that.
Right.
Nobody knows how the fuck to do that. People who have viral videos don't know how to make viral videos. Like
this came out this week or last week too from Hillary Clinton's campaign that they were start planning more spontaneous outburst or some shit. Like, what the fuck? You just released a statement saying, we're going to be more spontaneous.
Yeah.
Watch.
Yeah.
Coming down in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing, too, with just anything in general. Like, you can definitely tell, I don't want to say insincere, but when somebody's trying really hard to do that kind of stuff. Like, I saw, like, Hillary Clinton, like, started, like, Snapchatting. And I was just like...
She's not doing it because it's cool.
Oh, yeah, I'm like, come on. And, like, it's funny because you're Snapchatting like my grandmother would Snapchat. Like, she was trying to turn the camera and couldn't figure it out. And, like, it's just stick to...
It's like the Pope has the Twitter account or something like that.
Oh, I follow the Pope.
I was just talking about that.
Oh, he's awesome. Oh, no, he runs that shit, man.
Yeah.
He's great, yeah.
I saw...
It's him personally doing it?
Yeah.
Or is it his...
No, it's him. It's him.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah. Coming from a guy who grew up Catholic and then kind of wandered away from that, I'm liking this dude a little bit more. I mean, I haven't been to a Catholic church in
it's so fun.
A number of years, but
yeah, I left religion behind me, quite some time ago. But anybody who's searching for something, or knows that there's something bigger than themselves, I'm all in. I'm all in with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because I finally, there's a religious figure where I'm like, oh, this guy's onto some stuff. and maybe it's something I can relate to my religious family.
Yeah.
And as soon as they bring him up, they're like, oh, no, he's the Antichrist. What the fuck are you talking about? So there's finally a pope that I'm like, oh, this pope gets it. And now he's the goddamn Antichrist.
Yeah. That was kind of, this, not to be antagonistic, 'cause that's not the point of view I was coming from, but like...
Well, I'll be antagonistic.
But I totally agree. Like, he's rustling feathers of very devout Christian people who, but in a way that he's coming from being a good Christian.
That's what I think. I think he sounds more like the way Christians
Exactly.
should sound with a lot of stuff he's saying.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that makes him an Antichrist.
Yeah, it's
But he's
anybody who starts talking about peace and love and helping poor people and
nail him to a cross.
No.
Yeah.
If they're not there going, fuck you change your ways or you're going to hell. We don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah. I've been having I have a group text with
Pope?
with the Pope. He's on there. No, but I have a couple, as I'm sure everybody else does, but with a group of friends that we had that I started going to a couple years ago. We stopped, but we're still the same core group of friends at the house church, which essentially we would just instead of going
just have
to
blood
church.
orgies.
Yeah, but like just kind of hang out and like we would talk about just essentially, like better terms, like a Bible study, but not really. What's your
favorite Bible verse?
I don't know, man. Also Catholic, so
different.
Loose on the Bible. But yeah. So we've been having this talk. Like we text almost all day, every day. And just this ongoing thing about like all the stuff that's been happening lately, and we're just so goddamn tired of it. Like one of my closest friends who has one of the strongest like Christian families is just like he told us the other night. Like I was at his house. He's like, I get sick in my stomach when I go into church. Like they haven't been to church in a couple months because like when I walk into the building, I just don't feel good.
Huh.
And it's just like so like there's definitely a lot of conversation, at least amongst us and amongst a lot of people I know that isn't really what you see all the time, but it's not as loud. I guess you know it's not the people denouncing other people, but yeah, I'm tired of like the black and white, either for them or against them kind of thing.
Yeah, that's one of the places where I think we fucked up as we got into Christianity 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago. Everything became an either or. Something it was if it weren't it was either evil or it wasn't. Right. It was right or wrong, good or bad, including like even being fucking left-handed. So if you're right-handed, that's good. If you're left-handed, that's evil. Yeah. And everything begins. It's almost in our genetics now where it's hard for people to process that. That's not the way the universe works. It's not something is something or something else. It is something and something else at the same time. Right. And these are concepts that are very hard for the human brain to grasp. But we have a generation now of kids that can grasp this stuff that only Einstein could do 100 years ago. So I think things are changing. Even you, what are you, 25?
26. Yeah.
26. You know, like you said, you and your friends are all sitting around trying to figure. You know, there's something out there. You know, there's something to God, or I hate using God because the term God, because as soon as you do that, or some, it automatically has that father fucking bullshit connotation that comes along with it. That pyramid scheme, top down, which is absolutely ludicrous to me. But with us being connected the way we are with technology, podcasting. The spiritual conversation, I think, is about to go into hyperdrive. Mm-hmm. And that's why the Christians are so angry right now and so tense, because they know it. They sense it. They can feel it. Yeah, they can feel it. You can feel it. You know that there's a paradigm time shift happening. Mm-hmm. And of course, in their head, they're going, just like it's prophesied, just like it's prophesized. Yeah. And so we're living in interesting times.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too, where going back to like the black or white, right or wrong, I feel like there's this. It's hard to convince people any big subject, whether it be, especially if you're talking about religion in the terms of like whatever the fuck the meaning of life is. There's gonna be more than two sides to that argument. There's gonna be a side
infinite amount of sides.
But you know what I mean? Like my perspective is gonna be different than your perspective. Is gonna be different than Kevin's perspective. You know what I mean? Like everybody's gonna have a different. So I don't understand why we're still fighting over
because our parents and our grandparents tell us to.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, and like,
if you want to believe that Jesus is your personal savior, please do. Yeah. And then go through the paces that you need to do and sacrifice and understand what that means when you chose another human being to be your savior. Pray, do what you got to do. That'll get you into your heaven in the next life. But one thing you don't have to do is tell everybody else that's the only way to get there. Hold on, it's my girlfriend.
Hi, baby.
Hi, beautiful. How are you?
Good. Are you still at Daniel's house?
Yep. You're
hi,
on.
Lauren.
He says hi.
Hi, Daniel.
Hi.
Is Kevin with you, or did he go back to the house?
Kevin's here.
Hey.
Oh. Okay. Well, I'll see you when you guys get home.
All right. Love you, honey.
Love you, too. Bye.
Bye. Oh.
Too funny. What were we talking about?
How humans are trying to predict the future, so they make up stories to get everyone to follow along with it. And, you can't predict the future, so it's a curse.
Yeah. What I was just saying was...
Oh,
no. It's great. But, like, yeah, just... So, even, like, for example, that group of friends that I have were baseline, all Christian, believe in that stuff, are, like... We just can't comprehend that we're doing...
I wonder if people get so angry. The reason people get so angry is because in these religions, the more you're into your religion, the more you have to deny fundamental truths about yourself, and so you're watching other people be heathens, basically, and it just makes you more angry and angry because you're not acting the way that your nature wants you to act, and so you got to take it out on everybody else. You know,
I feel like that could be a part, and I've actually learned. Especially from my wife the other day, like she mentioned, because like I got burned with church, I left for a long time. We've been going to the church she kind of went to with her family and stuff for the past like year or two, but still like kind of just was off put, not just from like my past experiences, but she kind of put it in perspective, like yeah, but that's kind of like shitty stuff does happen. Because everyone's just as flawed as anybody who isn't here. Like, everyone's still just people making mistakes, which I understand, but I still don't use, like, and she doesn't either, but, like, as an excuse to be a bad person or whatever it is. So, I'm definitely finding that, just, like, I'm just definitely finding that you can't paint everybody with the same brush, whether it be
everybody's journey to that discovery of, let's call it God, is different. I think it's relative to each individual, and for the if you want to put it in the terms of sin, I think one of the biggest sins was to write down what you thought God told you, and then try to make other people see the way you saw it.
Yeah.
Instead of teaching people how to search for themselves and knowing that it's a lifelong search for whatever it is that's we're a part of.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Like, God is the word we use. I totally understand what you mean when you say, like, that's just like the term we have, or but we use most often in our society to mean whatever.
But it automatically puts
it could
parameters.
Be time.
But to me, when as soon as you say God or Allah or Yahweh or Jehovah, or you've already put parameters on the discussion.
Yeah.
And so that's why I hate using it. I'd rather use it in terms of like the Holy Spirit. The soul of the universe, the essence that is much, much older than the gods we've created.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had a discussion with a friend of mine who's one of the people that has like the strongest faith I know. He's a youth pastor, all that kind of stuff. But like we're talking just like if you are a Christian or whatever it is, and if you believe this God, so many people are. If you believe that God is like this all-encompassing thing, stop trying to give him human attributes.
Right.
Like God,
like anger.
Yeah, exactly.
Like anger. So hold on. God invented everything, and then got pissed off and destroyed everything again.
Exactly. I don't believe that whatever it is, God is, He is, whatever it is, gets mad or hates things or doesn't like. Well,
no. Did you see what happened in San Francisco? All the gays were over there, so they put earthquakes to kill them.
Listen,
I think that's why
if you're praying to a God that gets mad, I'm sorry. You need to pray to that God's God.
I just don't buy. I just don't buy a God that gets mad at me for supporting my gay cousin or my gay friends or whatever. I mean, that's just like the easy go-to because that's what's
right
in our society, the big thing in our society right now. But like I don't buy that. Like, no, I don't know. I don't get it. Like I as somebody who grew up Christian again, and like just the whole Bible thing, like taking verses from the Bible or whatever, I still have a hard time believing.
I was homeschooled by my mom in a Christian household, and also went to Christian school. So going back to a lot of these people that they're educated in that book and what they're supposed to say and how they're supposed to combat it, but when it's their turn to listen or kind of question things outside of it, they stand up, and you're a 17-year-old kid trying to explain that how it all works. Yeah. And like he was getting back to the lifelong journey, it's really it's a powerful way to look at it.
And I get it's just so.
One of my favorite Bible verses is Matthew 6:6. Mm-hmm. It says, "But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." Again, I hate using these fucking terms, Father, and that bullshit, because it sets up parameters that are just it retards the conversation. But what that's saying is, it also in the same verse, it doesn't, don't listen to the Pharisees and this. Go into your bedroom, lock the door, and that's what I believe. I believe if you go quiet yourself, quit listening to all these preachers. Quit. You're done. You've heard plenty of preachers. Mm-hmm. You've read the Bible as much as you're going to. Now shut the fuck up. Go into your room somewhere.
Make a fucking difference.
Or go wander out in the middle of the fucking wilderness and just sit there and then listen. And just listen and listen and listen. Yeah. And I believe that the universe speaks to you. God's however you want to manifest them into God's angels or the universe or whatever. Yeah. You'll get answers. You'll get a communication.
Yeah, and the whole baseline. That's what faith is. Nobody knows what they're doing is right. Whether it be believing God, not believing God, everyone's guessing and hoping for the best for the most part. I mean, you can be very devout on whatever side of the spectrum or in the middle of the spectrum, wherever you are. But that's the thing, too. So baseline religion, for me, that I learned when I kind of stepped away for a while was worst case scenario, it's still helping a person deal with something personally. And that's fine. As long as you're not being an ass with it, awesome. And if the end game is right, awesome for you too. You know what I mean? But nobody knows.
For me, the way I see, I commune with Jesus a lot. I really do. I commune with a lot of things.
Sorry. Go right through the door and then take a left.
And for me, I pray, believe it or not, I pray sometimes to God to forgive Jesus, to forgive a man who thought he could die for everybody, because the burden that then levied on all the Savior Spirit, the Christ Spirit, because there's been many, outside of whether the Jesus of Nazareth was a real human being or an amalgamation of different people at the time or whatever it is, the fact is that all through history, there's been the Christ, the Savior Spirit, where there's been humans praying for something to come and save them, bring the rains, or stop the fires, or whatever it is. And so I think there's a powerful energy that swirls, throughout the universe, and that you can tap into, but for people who are praying for a man to come back and save them, I believe is torture on that man's soul. So it's kind of funny because, so in a sense that Jesus Christ is still in hell trying to save everybody. And so I think everybody should pray to God to forgive Jesus and to realize everything's going to be okay, and that it's already okay, and that if you truly believe in God like you think you believe in God, then you wouldn't be as scared and as angry and needing to load up with fucking weapons like you think you do.
Yeah.
Because everything's playing out exactly the way it needs to play out. It's supposed to play out.
Well, people feel comfortable when they think that everything's going to be okay. They didn't have that comfort level of the chaos theory type. Shit's going to go down.
I am chaos.
I guess one of the best things I ever heard was, if you found out tonight that there was no God, are you going to go out and start raping and murdering people?
See, that's what people. Yeah, that's what the arguments is. Well, if we didn't have this order, then people just go out and rape and murder. This. I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like, there's something wrong with you if that's what you think.
Away forever.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Even if we're going caveman times, tribal instinct, you're going to keep your tribe intact, or else you're going to die. You're not. You know what I mean?
A misconception of where we came from is that 50,000 years ago or 200,000 years ago, our knuckles are dragging, we're going, and we're clubbing our women over the head and dragging them back to caves. And what fucking? It's not like that.
Yeah,
it wasn't like that. I mean, I don't think.
Hey, nobody knows.
You have some insight.
I remember. I was there.
But for survival, you got to think they got to be fit. They got to be able to be alert. They're not, like the Neanderthal you're talking about is a dumb ape that's dragging his knuckles.
You're a dumb ape.
But in order for our species to advance, we had to be witty. We had to be on top of things. And yes, there was probably that tribe over there in Wesley Chapel.
The rapey tribe.
But you know what? We just
stay away from that tribe. They're rapey.
Yeah, no, I hear what you mean. And that's the thing, like, and I don't, I really, when I have these talks, and this is probably the deepest we've gotten in this conversation on the podcast, and I love it. I mean, I can talk about this stuff all the my wife and I talk about stuff all the time like this, but I'm so open to finding out that I'm so full of shit. Like...
But all you're going to find out is that nobody knows.
Exactly.
So can we just all get along and freaking move forward?
That's the thing. Like,
come on.
Only if you believe.
Oh.
But the thing, so that's why I try not to. And like going back to your Bible verse, I get so your Bible verse that you think you said, but I get so kind of irked when people are. Or even ask me personal questions about, like, I'm still figuring out where I stand on stuff.
Oh, I love it. I love it. If somebody wants to have a discussion, I'll have it all day long.
I love discussions. I just don't love when the judging of a particular.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That's where insecurity goes.
You're right.
Or if you ask me specifically something about my faith, specifically like with like an edge to it, I'll just shut down. Like I don't. It's not a. It doesn't matter. What does it matter to you?
Which leads me to my second favorite Bible verse. Also comes from Matthew 7:5. You hypocrite! First take the plank out of your own eye, and then will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Remove the plank from your own eye, then you can see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. And that's because we spend too much time telling each other what you're doing wrong, or you're doing wrong, and if you just did this, you would be happier, and if you just did this. And I love that verse because it's 100% of the time when you find yourself doing that, stop and then look in the mirror. Stop and look in the mirror because it's the universe telling you the same thing.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Turn it. What else? You have some favorite Bible verses there, Kevin?
Yeah, let's go.
Kevin's actually on his phone finding one.
So this is it's chapter Stephen Jobs, 1955 to 2011. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living in someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the result of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of the other opinions drown out your eyes or inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
One of my other favorites is Genesis 6:4. The Nephilim were on earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children with them. So I want to learn more about this part of our history. When the sons of God came down and had sex with the daughters of humans and had children. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. I would love to learn more about that, and the giants of the Old Testament as well.
Sodom and Gomorrah. You can learn how the two daughters raped Abraham,
Lot.
got him drunk.
Was it Abraham or Lot?
Probably one of the other. Sorry.
Yeah, like going off that Steve Jobs quote. So that's so good.
Yeah, so they couldn't have any children, so they got their father drunk and seduced him, and so they could have children.
But yeah, like,
I will be done.
Also,
it was Lot and his two daughters left Zor and settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zor. He and his two daughters lived in a cave. One day the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old and there's no man around here to give us children, as is the custom all over the earth. Let's get our father to drink wine and then sleep with him." And
I made both my kids drink.
So for those of you that want to get with your sister and have your father knock you up, please know that it is supported by the Bible. You're good.
So saith the flock.
Yeah, and like, what was I gonna say?
So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father.
Oh yeah, Stephen Jobs. Yeah, that regardless, even if, because I know the basic common denominator, if we're gonna bring it all the way down to the separation between, like, for example, atheists or Christians or whatever it is the belief in an afterlife, in heaven, or whatever you want to call it. I kind of feel like I'm in the middle of that, because yeah, I hope there's something else.
It sounds great.
Yeah, it sounds awesome, but also I'm not going to live my life waiting to cash that check when I die. You know what I mean? Like, we were, again, back to that conversation I had with friends. Like, I think my wife even said it was, if, for these terms, talking with Christians, starting to realize that if you believe in the quote-unquote heaven, I feel like people are starting to realize that you can take advantage of that now and not wait to go to a certain place or whatever it is when you're not
Well, when they wrote that book, it was a really hard time, so people needed hope, or else they were going to rise up.
That's the thing, too.
And it really gave them hope that, you know what, you've got leprosy now, or whatever the slave trading was happening.
Yep.
But if there was just that comfort level of everything's going to be all right, we don't live in that age anymore.
Yeah.
No, people still need hope.
Yeah, you're right. But we don't have to live in that age. I think that we can blossom out of that.
And I think if you just are doing...
We will. I think because of the internet, because of the world is getting connected and will soon be connected, there is going to be a spiritual evolution or an awakening.
Yeah. And not even, like... I understand spiritual that can have ties to religion or whatever, but even just like a connectivity, like because of that, some atheists I know are some of the nicest people I know. Some aren't, but some are because they're
all humans.
They're being good people now because they don't think that when they die it's done, and maybe so. Take advantage of being a nice person now.
That's my
NERD, my man, NERD. No one ever really dies.
Yeah.
One thing that we know in physics, or we think we know in physics, is that no data is ever lost, no energy is ever lost.
Yeah.
It just changes, forms. So no one ever really dies. We just kind of change into something else, and into something else, into something else.
Yeah.
So,
but it is important to take advantage of the present, and be the best person you can be.
Absolutely.
Without your grandma hitting you on the back of the head because you caught you jacking off in the corner. You're going to hell, Sonny.
I just don't know why you're doing that with your grandma in the room.
Well, she's hot.
Tell me more about that.
I got a thing for tits sitting right next to belly buttons.
Oh, man.
Oh, back to God.
By the way, he just bought our grandmother's house. She passed away last year. Great woman. And he's moving his family into the house, which is really cool.
That's cool. Keep it in the family.
It's 5 acres in the forest.
Nice.
And
That's
I've
awesome.
always lived in the city, so it's going to be a lifestyle change.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds awesome, though. I always go back and forth between wanting to live, again, in like a city. Tampa's nice. St. Pete's nice, but like a big city. And then also back and forth and just like the total opposite.
If you embrace the culture and its energy smooth, you ride that wave.
I feel like I have a short attention span where like a couple years good and then move somewhere else for a couple years kind of different.
Sure.
And then
a friend of mine just moved to Kodiak, Alaska, a guy that I grew up with, and I love when he's posting pictures on Facebook, he and his wife, because that to me, that is just absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
A town of 6,000 people.
Oh man, that's nuts.
Well, that's how many I'm moving to. Is there's 8,000 in the entire forest.
Yeah.
So,
you have more bears up there than you do people.
Which I'm in the Wesley Chapel of Orlando, which is Ocoee.
Okay. Yeah.
And, I think we're at 65,000 people now.
Nice.
It's more like the plant city of Orlando.
True.
Not the Wesley Chapel.
I don't even know what Wesley Chapel is.
It's north here. Close enough.
All right, my turn to Pete.
All good, man. So, because you guys grew up there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How's that to grow up in? I grew up, to preface, I was born here and I grew up in Land O'Lakes, which is probably kind of similar.
Well, it's touches Orlando. It's right on the outskirts.
Okay.
Highway 50 cuts through Orlando and goes out towards Claremont, and then you can visually take Cortez out towards Land O'Lakes in that area.
Gotcha.
But so it's right by Windermere, so that's where Tiger Woods' wife busted out the back window of his car.
Is that on the sign when you drive in?
Mm-hmm. It's mostly Grove community, and then people that built the infrastructure for Disney.
Okay.
There's a lot of older homes built in the 70s. There was a big boom out there.
Gotcha.
But it's still a good old boy network.
Yeah.
I think Ocoee back in 1902 had one of the most bloodiest wars or fights.
Really?
And it was an election year, and there was African American business owners in Apopka, and they were coming to get their Groves workers to come up and vote. Mm-hmm. And it turned out to be a massacre.
Jeez.
So it's still far away from Orlando, but it's close enough to where people were coming in. The sheriff of Orange County was coming in to support the militia to keep, because people were showing up to vote.
That's
and
nuts.
Everyone else was showing up with their guns to turn them away.
Jesus.
And this was in 1902. Wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. That's the thing, too. Like, how short of time ago when things just...
Little House on the Prairie style.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That's nuts.
And what's it going to be like in 5 years? I'm in town for Tampa because I had 8 hours of Outlook training for my computer.
Uh-huh.
So one of the things that they told us is information. In the past 30 years, we receive more information past 30 years than people did for the previous 2,000, and they expect that to double within the next 5 years.
Man.
And I don't know if we can handle that type of information without our heads popping off, because we.
But no, we can't. But the next generation can. Your little ones. He's got 9 and 5, 9 and 6. That generation and their kids.
Are they going to be better at smelling bullshit? And because all this information, I can sit there and listen to the Thinking Atheist or ilovejesus.com and whatever that information I'm putting in. I'm like, okay, I'm filing away. If I'm not really applying critical thinking or whatever, it's very easy, like most of the masses, to how. Oh,
they'll adapt. That's the way we're built.
Yeah.
That's the way we're
designed. Are they going to go that way, or are they going to go like
both.
Idiocracy? And,
no, both. You're going to have both. And so, but out of that, because we're focusing or I think anyway, we're focusing so much on all the bad kids in this generation and the horrible things coming out of this generation. But man, I see just the exact opposite in so many other kids. You can see this intelligence. You can see. I don't know. It's like they're older souls or something. Yeah. They know shit that I don't know. I think it's different.
Well, it's exciting. And we are living in good times. And if we're focusing on
it's
Fox or whatever news outlet we want to listen to,
overall the trend is it's changing in what I would consider a positive direction. It'll be a slow change, but I mean, just this year, obviously, with gay marriage being legal everywhere, that's like it's slowly happening. There's going to definitely be always people who teach their kids whatever they think their kids should think, like whether it be.
But you can't. We're not, like I said, you're not going to be able to stop it anymore. We've connected the world.
Yeah.
It's getting more connected every single day, and it doesn't matter what our parents or our generation, the adult generation, does right now. Mm-hmm. All their fears, and which manifest themselves into lies that we think are protecting our children. There's just a tsunami, the knowledge you're talking about, the information. There's a tsunami of information that is hitting us right now. And there's wave after wave of it. And again, we might not be able to process all the shit that's coming our way right now. But I promise you, those kids that aren't even fucking talking yet are the ones that are going to be able to process this. Yeah. I have a lot of faith. I am not a pessimist. I am not an apocalyptic kind of, so many, you don't even have to be a Christian, and people are like, oh no, the world's coming to an end.
I think they said there's a study in America that 60% of Americans feel that in their lifetime Armageddon will happen.
Yeah, well, that's talking about the actual return, the Antichrist Christ thing.
or an asteroid hitting, or somebody in Korea pushing a button and then it just goes.
Which to me is evidence that we are just the stressors of the environment that are making people scared, and so they're going to what they know. So it feels like this has to be the end times. But I'll tell you what it is. It's a growth spurt. And on the other side of this, there is a new age. And we may even be able to see the beginning of it before we die. For me, I'm more like, watch the next generation, or maybe 3 generations from now. People are like, well, fuck that. What about me and right now? You're talking about 100 years from now. No, fuck you. Think about it in geological time. Think about it weighing our existence up against the existence of the dinosaurs in a timeline. We came out of Africa, say, 200,000 years ago. Well, we're just a little tiny centimeter. Right. Yeah. The dinosaurs lasted 150 million years or whatever it is. Well, we're just in the beginning of what we're going to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And I think... I think we're about to enter a golden age of humanity here in the next couple centuries.
Yeah, and the great thing about being people in, again, whatever you believe, whether it be something or nothing, the great thing about...
I believe in the possibility of everything.
Yeah, the great thing about being people, though, is people have different points of view, and they're all...
fucking moronic.
They can be moronic, or they can be valid in how moronic they are. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has a different set of experiences that informs the way they think about things. It might not be in agreement, but if you can open up the dialogue to it not just being a shouting match on Facebook or whatever, and like, right. You know what I mean?
And you can't, and no longer...
I think dialogue is what's important.
Right, and no longer can people control all the dialogue through network television or newspaper, with, again, going back to the digital media age that we live in.
Yeah.
You got your podcast right now, and so do 500,000 other people.
Yeah.
And that's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and ideas are going to spread and connect, and, so a lot of times I think it's not going to be in my lifetime that I will see this great reckoning now, this great movement.
Yeah, the shift.
The shift. But I don't know. I think sometimes I think I'm in the middle of it. Yeah, and by the time I'm taking my last breaths, they're breasts, of course.
I think Terrence
I'll be smiling.
Terrence McKenna calls it the archaic revival. I guess it's where where people start to quit focusing on all the Donald Trumps and the distractions that make us show up to work at 9 a.m. and clock in. The cafes stay open all night. We're able to sit there and have civil conversation. If you're from Saudi Arabia and I'm from Canada, we can all sit down and have a laugh. And coming into probably not I don't know if global society would ever happen, but it'd be beautiful to see where we can just say, you're not from China. We're all just a bunch of humans on a rock going through the universe.
Well, I think we're in the birthing pains of what humanity is going to become, and I think once we get through that, whether it takes 100 years or 1,000 years, 10,000 years, there's going to be a point where things level off, and I think there's going to be 100 million years of peace, 100 million years of humanity exploring their universe and enjoying everything that God created until asteroid comes or whatever. Changes everything.
Well, that's if we get a break from any of the natural things that happen that put us...
Never get a break. Yeah, never
right,
get a break.
So how can we ever see that tension go down to where we can, unless everybody gets it, everybody can...
Well, yeah, because I think because I believe that we're evolving as well, and a lot of people think that we're the pinnacle of
Neanderthal.
Of the pinnacle of creation. But we're not. We're one of many things that are part of creation. But as we evolve and become more aware and aware that we're aware that we're aware and so on and so forth, I just think it's naturally going to change. And like you were saying, we're focusing so much on Donald Trump. I think there's the Donald Trumps of the world. There is a time right around the corner where we're just going to wake up and go, what the fuck are we doing? Yeah. We're distracting ourselves. We have bought into this pyramid scheme that we call capitalism. It is not trickle-down economics. It's siphon-up economics. We've known this since the times of fucking ancient Egyptians. This is the reason that Moses was trying to get people out of there, because the Egyptians weren't known for having slaves. What they fucking figured out is capitalism. What they figured out is this pyramid scheme on how to get people into a system to build things, and you're giving them stuff for their services, and then you get them into this system, and they're technically a slave for the rest of their fucking days. And I just think it's all going to change. I know it. I feel it in my bone.
Yeah,
I mean, I got to get back out to the beach. It's getting fucking late. It's an hour drive.
It's been an hour and 20 minutes. A lot of heady talk, but it was good.
Yeah.
So.
Shit, I know, and we usually I'm not sober for these kind of discussions. I don't know what to do.
So, moral of the story is just be nice.
Absolutely.
Be nice to people.
Take pride in who you are.
Good.
Be yourself. All right, dude. Well, thanks for having me, man.
Awesome, man.
Thanks for having us.
That was awesome, dude. Thank you very much. Oh, and hey, it could be worse.